Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If all I get's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. Cause lately I've been seeing stars trying to kick out of this chokehold. But it's no holds barred, middle finger like I'm Stone Cold.
And what is good, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy, We Too Deep. We're back with another episode here of the Slapping Meat Wrestling Podcast. It is our NXT Deadline review, coming, live reaction right after the show ends. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of this show. And just dive on in. So let's sort of set the scene of how we're gonna, discuss this show. Of course, we'll go match by match and sort of give my thoughts on them. But I also, I made a claim back in October. that NXT Deadline was going to be, there was 3 shows. You had Crown Jewel, you had Survivor Series, and you had Deadline. And I made the claim that NXT Deadline was going to be the best of those 3 shows. And we'll talk about that. What did I live up to that claim? Right? Did the show live up to that claim? Was I correct in that atmosphere? But I also then want to sort of talk about. Of course, we'll go through the card, but then I want to talk about the sort of the crowd reaction, and that's where I want to start. The crowd seemed hot at times and not so hot at other times, and as we go through the matches, I will sort of linger on to why I think the crowd responded to certain people or not. I felt, and this was sort of something that kind of scared me going into this card as they started to build the show out, was the real sort of lack of star power, right? Of course, you have Trick, and you have Carmelo, and you have Braun, and you have Tiffany, but there wasn't any of the guys that that I would say that are crowd favorites. Like putting a tag match with the D'Angelo family on this card, I felt would have made better sense than some of the matches that we had. Putting, Roxanne had a match, and she's a crowd. I just feel like there's a little bit more crowd favorites that aren't being used, and NXT is a very interesting type of product because it is seen by a lot of the fans as a developmental product. I don't personally see it that way. But because it's seen that way, and the way they use it, it's a place where, you have people in the Performance Center who are coming up. And the way it's technically, the way it should be used is you're here and after a certain amount of time, you get moved up to Raw or SmackDown to make way for fresher talent. And what I feel like NXT's trying to do is, instead of doing that, is sort of creating a permanent roster, which I'm okay with, but there's so much newer talent that you've just sort of influxed on to the NXT universe, the NXT fan base. You got a lot of new women's talent. The women's division is completely different than it was a year ago in terms of like who the big players are. Tiffany's definitely getting caught up, and so them taking the title off of her and sort of moving her to more of a background character until the Royal Rumble, is creating a place to where Lyra Valkyria is doing a very good job as champion, but the rest of the sort of division, you're putting a new influx of talent. Kiana James is, up there. Fallon Henley's been here for a while, but the newer people like Petrovich and Izzy Dame and Lash Legends getting more into and more involved in this division, whereas someone like a JC Jane, a Thea Hale, a Gigi Dolan are sort of being pushed again, being side characters, and you're pointing to more newer talent that the universe may not be aware of as much, or be behind as much. And so I think the crowd really showed that. And in the same essence as, people, CM Punk was on Friday Night SmackDown. He gave a little one-liner about Kevin Owens punching people backstage and sort of comparing it to, his situation with AEW as a little jab, a little playful jab. And the crowd, some people say they didn't respond very well or the way that they should have. And when you're in this northeastern crowd, which doesn't really get a lot of wrestling outside of WWE, and a lot of them are super casual, you're not going to get that the type of reaction you think of. And in that same way with the casual feel of a lot of what I get out of the northeast fan base, main roster WWE is all most people, I would assume, pay attention to. It's a super casual fan base. They want the Roman Reigns and the Seth Rollins and the guys like that. And so you put on a product like NXT, and while there were NXT fans there, the crowd, I felt you got the energy that, it's sort of the same feel I felt at the beginning of the year at Vengeance Day when they were here in Charlotte, because the Charlotte fan base is kind of the same way, in that they're super casual and they know a lot of the main wrestlers, but when you put something on like an NXT, where a lot of the talent aren't recognized by the mainstream casual fans, you don't get the reaction that is necessarily expected, and so it is a little bit dangerous for NXT to do these tours like this in these smaller towns. The next PLE is next year's Vengeance Day in February in Clarksville, Tennessee, which is like an hour outside of Nashville. But it's a smaller town, and it's a different audience than what Nashville would be, right? And Bridgeport's a different audience than what Boston or New York would be in the Northeast, right? And so I just wanted to sort of, recognize that as a fan watching it on TV, the crowd was, I don't want to say dead, but it wasn't as responsive as a more hardcore audience would be. And I think that's why location is super important. And not saying that the crowd was bad. I thought, it had its high moments, it had its low moments, but I think a lot of that is because, as much as, I would say that location is a problem and is part of that, I think it's also the job of the booker to give the crowd something to cheer for. This idea that I have to cheer just because, just to cheer, is, I don't subscribe to that ideology. You have to give me something to cheer for, and I don't necessarily think the build for this event was as good as it was last year. It just didn't feel like a Premier Live event to me. And so with that being said, we'll start there. We'll talk about the card. We'll start with the pre-show, where we had Nathan Fraser taking on Axiom. I actually thoroughly enjoyed this match, which is surprising because there wasn't a story to this match at all. The sort of reason for it happening is sort of, we're good friends. We've faced each other numerous times. Let's just take it back for old time's sake. And we're just going to have a good match. and I'm fine with this happening, once, maybe twice on a card, and for them to do it on the pre-show, as a crowd, to inject the crowd with some energy. I thought this was a very good match. If I were to rate it, now I'm still we're going to release the We Too Deep rating scale in 2024, where I'm going to start rating each premium live event of the year, and I'm going to hold a list to see what my highest ranked premium live event is at the end of the year, and so I'm still perfecting that, how that works out, how I rated this event, just sort of for clarification, is out of 10, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 out of 10, and so an A match would be a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. A B match would be a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10. A C match would be a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. A D match would be a 3 or a 4 out of 10. And then an F match would be a 1 or 2 out of 10, right? And if you're really that low, you shouldn't probably be on a PLE to begin with. Just my opinion. So with that being said, Fraser and Axiom is a 7 out of 10 in my book, which gives it a B rating, right? So like, for example, so within the B's, you have a 7 or an 8 out of 10 to be a B, right? 7 out of 10 is a B, 8 out of 10 is a B+, right? And so this was a B match. It wasn't like the greatest thing ever, but it is also a pre-show match. The entire point was just to sort of inject the crowd with some energy. You had some very good spots. I'm a little confused with Axiom winning the match, and I'm sort of looking forward to seeing where that goes. And I'll say that sort of as a general overview. A lot of this pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever you want to call it, seemed to me to be more of an advancement of storyline than an ending of storyline, because PLEs can serve two purposes. You either end storyline or you extend it. You give another plot point to continue a story, and this more so felt like extending storylines, continuing storylines, or creating new storylines. A lot of storylines didn't end here at this event, and so I think that also could sort of change the way you look at matches, right? So we start with the actual show. Shawn Michaels comes out. He starts giving he comes down. He's like, "Are you ready?" Right? The little thing. Excuse me. Let me learn how to talk here. The little thing that DX does there, if this was 20 years ago, right? And he starts with that, "Are you ready?" Right? And that's fun. And then CM Punk comes out. And this is fun, right? And then I saw a lot of people complaining, "Why is CM Punk here? This dude's running a whole tour of the whole company." Guys, do you not realize what's going on? CM Punk's a free agent. He's being courted by all three brands in WWE. He's going to make a decision on Monday who he's going to sign. He literally laid this out on Friday Night SmackDown. What's going on? But having him here is fun. It started the show again, injected a little bit of energy into it. I would have loved to see some backstage segments, even if it was just him and Shawn walking into Shawn's office to talk, or CM Punk, them doing ending a match and going backstage and having CM Punk walking out of Shawn Michaels' office like, "Oh, thanks for the talk," or something like that, right? Just to build a little bit more intrigue to maybe the possibility of CM Punk signing with NXT. And so the CM Punk promo wasn't necessarily bad. I know a lot of people have given him they sort of they have him sort of grabbed by the balls and he has to behave, and he's fragile Punk, and he's PG Punk, and all of this, and I thoroughly believe though that CM Punk is trying to make the best out of this circumstance. Like, he's at the pinnacle of all wrestling. Again, he's getting another opportunity. I like the little allusion to Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels that was made. I like, the idea that, hey, I've made amends with Triple H. We're going to be adults about this. I thoroughly enjoy what they're doing here. And it makes it interesting to want to tune into Raw on Monday to see CM Punk actually make that decision on where he's going. Excuse me. But with that starting, we then get into the actual matches. You get Dragon Lee fighting for the North American Championship against Dominic Mysterio. I will say this: Rey Mysterio seems very awkward, even on commentary. I found that to be a little bit awkward. I feel like outside of the ring, even when he did the press stuff for 2K22, was that the one he was on? And he was a little awkward on that the press stuff, the commercial. That seems out of his sort of expertise and out of his comfort zone. Where he would rather just be in the ring and doing that type of stuff. I feel like him on commentary also was a little bit awkward, out of his comfort zone. And I don't know about you. I'm completely just worn out of the whole Dominic Rey Mysterio storyline. I'm tired of it being brought up. It's been a year now, and everyone's still oh, we want Dominic and Rey at WrestleMania again. I'm like, bro, we literally had that, almost 12 months ago. Right? It's I think it's an old story. It's stale. I don't necessarily think anyone actually cares about it. This match itself being sort of made last minute, it was decent. I'm not a fan of the ending or the result of the match, but I'm not going to sit here and bitch about it and cry about it. It is what it is. I just don't understand why Dragon Lee, this title's been hostage since Dominic won it, and Dominic's done a decent job defending it. But what tends to happen and what it feels like is they're just going to keep it on guys that can show it on SmackDown or show it on Raw, instead of building the men's main roster or mid-card, and building the mid-card in NXT and giving them something to fight for. They're putting it on Dominic or putting it on Dragon Lee, who, are main roster superstars. There's so much talent on the mid-card in NXT. Guys like, trying to think of some of the mid-card, guys like, Josh Briggs could win it because he bought out. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Briggs, Eddie Thorpe, Corbin could even hold this title and build something. Dijak. I feel like, we need to get that back. Fraser, Tyler Bate, guys like that who could build that division around NXT superstars rather than just having on someone that could show it on Raw or SmackDown. And so, Dragon Lee winning is fine. I wasn't necessarily wowed by anything in this match. I will say this: Dominic is good at playing this character, but he's still a little sloppy in the ring. His in-ring work is a little sloppy at times. I felt the match pacing was a little off to me. It started slow, and then it started to pick up steam, and then it started getting slow again, and then towards the end it started to pick up steam. And I think at that point, it wasn't a bad match. I rated it a 6.5 out of 10, which is a a C match, a C plus match. It was an average match. It wasn't anything overly good, but it wasn't bad, right? And it served the purpose that it's supposed to serve. I'm a little disappointed Santos didn't get involved. I really thought that we would get a Santos Escobar interference with this, with the fact that Santos is, dealing with Rey and the LWO and Dragon Lee on SmackDown. Having Santos Escobar here, I'm also just like what's the point of not having at least Rhea Ripley with Dominic here? It just. I get it. When mommy's not here, I lose, and he can go in and complain about it. But I don't know. I'm not as much as the good press of having it on all three shows. I'm just tired of the Judgment Day. Personally, I think the North American Championship needs a fresh story. It needs a fresh champion. It needs to get out of the SmackDown and Raw storylines. And just, be used for what made Wes Lee such a good champion was that he defended against the NXT mid-card, and it was solid week in and week out. And Dominic doesn't do that, and that's what that title's meant to do, right? That's what it's meant for, is to be defended and build that mid-card. And so I don't hate that Dragon Lee's champion, and I like what they're telling, and it's not necessarily my least favorite thing going on in the world of wrestling, but I just personally would wish that they would put it back on somebody like, give it to someone like Eddie Thorpe, who I think could benefit from a title run, or even someone like Duke Hudson, who could benefit from an actual title run. Moving forward, we got the Women's Iron Survivor match. I gave this a 7 out of 10. And this was the main match that I'm talking about that lacked star power. To me, that was the biggest issue, was that it lacked, recognizable star power. So you had Tiffany Stratton, which is recognizable. There's some star power there. You had Fallon Henley, Blair Davenport, Lash Legend, Kalani Jordan. Though, other than Tiffany, there's no one recognizable to a casual fan, right? And even Tiffany would only be known to the more casual NXT watchers. And so this match really suffered from the fact that Kalani Jordan has only been on TV for, less than 4 months. Lash Legend, has been on TV for a while, but has always been sort of like the butt of everyone's jokes. I will say this: she had a really good performance tonight. She has very much improved her in-ring ability. Out of all the people involved with Metaphor, she's like the best in terms of growth. I cringed when she was introduced as part of the team, but she's really growing, and you could tell she's putting in a lot of work, which is why I think she's still on the roster, right? There's a lot of people you could just tell aren't, who would have the opportunity she has, and, she's been on TV for a year or two at this point. After a year or two on TV, if she didn't improve, I would say you got to get rid of her. She can't make it in NXT. She's not going to make it on the roster, right? You got to make room. But she's improving. I'm assuming, putting in work during the week at the Performance Center and doing what needs to be done. And you can, and I assume that because I can see the fruit of that, in that she's putting on, she's not the best in the ring, but she has almost a handicap in that she is a taller, more, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but a more, she's taller, more I don't want to say masculine, but she's built more so she's not Roxanne Perez. Like, Roxanne Perez can walk in, and you can't book Lash Legend in the same way you'll book Roxanne Perez, because Perez's story will always be the underdog, right? Whereas she's more of like a giant in the women's division, and I feel like they've done a very good job booking her in this Metaphor, especially in this match, as the giant that she is in the women's division. She's taller, a little bit more stockier, and yeah, she really impressed me. I'll be completely honest. She really impressed me with her growth over the last year or so. Overall, though, I'm not happy at all that it's Blair Davenport. Like, I would have been happy with anyone but Blair Davenport winning Iron Survivor, because I'm just not at all interested in Blair Davenport. I haven't been when she was on NXT UK, wasn't when she was on the Indies, didn't care about her when she was in AEW. I just don't get what they're doing with her, and I don't know. When I go into this, and I'm pretty certain I got all these predictions wrong. I'm gonna, to be honest with you, I don't remember all of my predictions, but I'm pretty certain I got most of these wrong. I had Fallon Henley winning this match, mostly because of bias, but more so because I looked at it logically and said, well, we're going to build these type of matches. There's a story with Blair Davenport that would have made a lot more sense, and that's the story of her and Nikita. You could have had Nikita Lyons come out the same way Eddie Thorpe came out and attacked Blair Davenport to stop her from getting that last fall, and have someone, out of that match. Like, Fallon Henley should have won. And again, this could be biased, but she's put in so much work. And I think even, because there's no way Blair Davenport wins the title, right? Davenport's not taking the title off of Valkyria. I don't see that happening. And so, if we're not going to take the title off of Valkyria, you don't want to put Kalani Jordan in that place. She hasn't been here long enough. And Lash Legend's still growing. And then you have Tiffany Stratton, who's definitely going to Royal Rumble. And so she's just there for some sort of name recognition. And Blair Davenport, you could have built the story of with Nikita, and then Kalani and Lash get a story going. But it appears they're going to go Lash Legend, Metaphor, and then Metaphor against Briggs Jensen and Fallon Henley, which I'm okay with. At least they sort of tied that together here with a backstage segment showing that. But yeah, I don't get the love for Blair Davenport. I don't think the fans are into Blair Davenport at all. And this idea that she attacked all these people, well, the first person she attacked is back, right? Nikita's back. You got to continue that storyline. And so my assumption is at New Year's Evil, in the match, Nikita Lyons is going to attack Blair Davenport. But you could have had that happen here rather than wait 4 weeks, and like 3 weeks actually, but rather than wait for it 3 to 4 weeks for it to happen, have it happen now. You can continue that story, and that way maybe at New Year's Evil you then have Blair and Nikita, and actually put someone like a Henley, or even like, I know people don't want to see it, but like even Kalani Jordan getting a title opportunity. Kalani Jordan was probably the best performer in this match, in my opinion. She is so good. Now, there was that one spot where she did like the moonsaults or like the backflip. I don't know what I'm not a gymnast. But she either jumped over the ropes doing them or something, and she put way too much on it. And instead of sort of like landing on the superstar, she like hit her with her legs and went completely like back first into the announce table. But that comes with time. She'll learn to fix that. She was performer of the night to me. She really stood out to me. Your breakout woman superstar with the, she didn't show up. I felt there's a little bit more they could have given to this division to really continue some more storyline. Like Lola Vice has this contract that she can cash in, and she didn't necessarily have to cash it in, but at least come out and try to tease it. Like, not having Lyra Valkyria as well in a match on this card is kind of weird to me as well. Like, that match should have been defended, and there's a match that I feel we could have taken out of here to to replace it, and it's actually the next match we're talking about, and it's Carmelo and Lexis King. I get the story you're trying to tell here. But the match itself was actually pretty mid to me. It was a pretty mid match. I gave this a 6 out of 10. The match itself was pretty mid. But what's really interesting about this is the story, the potentiality of the story that's being built here. That's what really drew my interest. I like Lexis King. I think it's very, very telling that in 4 weeks, if that, probably a little bit more, about a month and a half. In about a month and a half, Lexis King feels more important than Brian Pillman Jr. ever did in AEW. And I know I keep saying that, but I bring up that point to show you that, like, everyone sort of had this idea that, you know, I go to AEW, I can be my own creative, and you know, WWE isn't the place to be used. And WWE's proving to a lot of these potential free agents out of AEW as these contracts start to end, hey, you're not being used. Come to us, we will use you. And WWE is making a concerted effort to use as many people on the roster as they can. And they're making Jade Cargill come out to be this big thing. They're making Lexis King come out and be this big thing. And making them feel important. You know, Ricky Starks, I think, will be the next one to leave. You think of someone like a Wardlow or a Will Hobbs that I think, and Hobbs I think will stay, but someone like a Wardlow, Ricky Starks, guys like that, you know, I could see a potential move to WWE being a very beneficial thing for them. But yeah, I think the match itself left some to be desired. Lexis King, he's still very indie. Like, I've seen him on the indies before. He's still his style's still somewhat indie. He's still learning this. There's definitely a learning curve that comes with it. He's not bad, though. The character is really fun. And like I said, the story is interesting on where this will end up with what's going on with Lexis King. I see big things for him in the year of 2024, to be honest with you. We'll move on to the men's Iron Survivor. This was my highest rated match, but it's not going to be my match of the night. It's the highest rated because of the sort of gimmick behind it, and I thought it had the best, like, overall performance. But I'm not going to call it the match of the night. 8 out of 10. There was more action, a lot more star power, just an overall better match than the women's Iron Survivor. And so you had Braun Breaker, you had Trick Williams, you had Tyler Bate, you had the 3 of the 5 guys were pretty liked by the fan base. Dijak, people, you know, he's a heel, so he gets booed, and that's okay. And then you have Josh Briggs, who is sort of the unknown guy who really shined. I think he's the performer of the match. Again, that could be a little bit biased because I do like that pairing of Fallon Henley, Josh Briggs, and Brooke Stinson. I really like it. But Josh Briggs, again, I've seen him live at an Evolve show several years ago. I know what he can do. He's a talented dude, and I'm happy that he's starting to, you know, that this group is starting to get some airtime because I think they're very good and just need some time to shine. And NXT's definitely sort of moving into giving some more time to some of these people as we start to move some of these people up to the Raw or SmackDown roster. Trick winning this match came out of nowhere to me because he was down. He was the only person at one point to not have a fall. And I was sitting here and I was like, how did I, like who's going to win this? And then for him to get 4 falls in what seemed like the last 2 minutes was a very good touch because he went through the penalty box several times. Trick Williams, though, is a superstar. Like, out of anybody on this card tonight, he had the biggest pop. He had the best crowd reaction. People love Trick Williams. And yeah, Trick Willie, man, is a superstar. If they do this correctly, he beats Dragunov on the at New Year's Evil. If they do this correctly, that's what you do. You have him beat Dragunov. And he becomes champion, and he just dominates. Have him dominate as, like, the crowd favorite, and just start getting in all these banger matches, because he is such a star, man. And I love seeing this, because at one point I really thought that they were just going to have him be Carmelo's sort of, like, manager, but they're really letting him shine on his own as a wrestler, and he's making the most out of this opportunity. So, not much more to say. Braun Breaker's a beast, but we already knew this, and we kind of figured, hey, he's going to the main roster. Speaking of Braun Breaker, now that I think about this, I forgot, after the Women's Iron Survivor, Cora Jade did show up like the rumors said was going to happen, which is interesting and will set up something, I'm sure. But, I would have liked a lot better to have Cora Jade in the Iron Survivor match. Or to have her, not just show up there. Like, I like the surprise returns, but put her in the match. Like, you could have taken out, honestly, Blair Davenport. Like, I'm gonna complain about Davenport every time she's in the ring. I'm just not a big fan of her. Moving forward, though, we're gonna move on to Kiana James and Roxanne Perez. I gave this a 7.5 out of 10. Women's cage matches really scare me. And they scare me because there's a lot of risk just for anyone to be 20 feet in the air on the top of these cages. But I feel like the women try to prove themselves too much. And so there was a point where, like, they both were on the top of the cage and they were fighting, and I was just sitting there and I was like, get down. Like, you don't need to be up there, right? And it just felt like a risk that didn't need to be taken. The match itself, this is actually going to be my match of the night. I thoroughly enjoyed this match, and I'm sure some will disagree. But this was a really, really, really good match. For Kiana James' first cage match ever in her life. Like, she was very comfortable in that element. And her getting the win is exactly what needed to happen. Her getting the win the way she got it makes it even better. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who are like, well, it's a cage match. It's not supposed to have interference. Dog, she's a heel. And I get so tired of this idea of heels can't do heel things because the gimmick is supposed to stop them from doing heel things. Like, Roman Reigns has been in cage matches before where the bloodline get involved. That's part of being a heel. I just, like, so Izzy Dame came out. She attacked Roxanne Perez, helping Kiana James win. And it seems like that's going to start being a partnership at some point, which I like, because Izzy Dame, she's going to be a good performer. She did very well in the breakout tournament for the match she was in. And, yeah, I like it. I like it, man. People hate on it, but, man, this is good heel work. Kiana James is a good female, strong woman, boss babe of a heel. And I love it, right? We need this type of character in WWE, and this is something that they could definitely benefit from. I don't understand. I don't like the way the match ended. Okay, what don't you like? Like, a story was told, it's going to continue. Roxanne Perez is going to say, if you didn't have Izzy help you, right? And this is, I don't know. I don't get how you don't like this. Oh, they were in a cage. It's supposed to stop interference. That has never stopped it from happening before, right? Not Judgment Day. Well, I'm sure Judgment Day, whenever they're in a cage. I don't remember. I can't give specific examples at the moment because it's late. I'm tired, and I don't have time to sort of research this thing. But I can probably show you several cage matches in the last decade or two that interference had happened on. Right? Just because, it's a steel cage, heels are going to do heel things, and that's fine. I'm pretty certain it happened in a bloodline match that was in a cage. Like, that's what heels do. Can we quit complaining about heels doing heel things? That's why I think there's such a disconnect in a lot of independent booking, and this includes AEW, where, like, it's hard to tell who the heels are because the crowd complains when heels do heel things. Right? For example, Ric Flair goes on Rampage. He cuts a promo at the taping that's super, like, risque, telling all the 25-year-old women to meet him at the hotel. That's his gimmick. He's a heel. That's what he's supposed to do, and y'all bitch about it. It's hard to be a heel in the indie scene in an AEW because the fucking fans don't understand heel work. Oh, man, Izzy Dame shouldn't have gotten involved. Why not? Tell me how else. How else is that supposed to happen, right? You need strong women heels. Like this is a fantastic way to end this match. Was a fantastic way to end this match. And then we move forward to the main event, Corbin versus Dragunov. I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's still, it's easy to see what they're doing with Dragunov. They're telling this story that no matter what happens, Dragunov, I've never seen somebody win so many matches in a row after getting the living shit beat out of them. Like, against Carmelo at No Mercy, got the living shit beat out of him, won the match. This match, got the living shit beat out of him. They focused on the ribs this time, right? And first off, he's a damn good seller. Damn good seller of these injuries. But I've never seen somebody get the living shit beat out of him. His match is against Dijak. Like, he gets the living shit beat out of him every single match that he's in. And the story they're telling with him is the story of persecution. Or, excuse me, not persecution, perseverance through what you can call persecution. Let's just say that. Like I said, it's late, man. It's late, and I'm saying words that make no sense. The idea is perseverance, right? He's persevering through the pain. He's persevering for his family, right? And so this again just completed. This probably was the one that the only match here that completed a story. But it continued. It's telling the story of Dragunov, the dude who's willing to go to any length, suffer through all this great trials and pain, and put himself in a situation where he's probably going to lose, but he perseveres. He gets through the hard times, and I like it, man. I think he should drop the title though at New Year's Evil. Let Trick take that title. I think Dragunov should move up and show up at the Royal Rumble, and move on from there. But yeah, a lot of what happened here is going to basically start a reset of NXT like they always do at the Royal Rumble. I think we're going to get a lot of people moved up to Raw or SmackDown. I thoroughly do. I think Breaker's gone. I think Roxanne's gone. I think Carmelo's going to leave. I think possibly Tiffany. There's a lot of people I think could be called up to Raw or SmackDown through the Royal Rumble, and NXT is going to need to replenish this talent, and they're doing a very good job at doing that. And so yeah, that gives the show a 7 out of 10 overall show. That's a B show, which gives it the same rating that I gave Survivor Series. But let's talk about it. If y'all remember, I gave Survivor Series a B- because of the circumstance of CM Punk. Without the CM Punk, it's like a C+. So, was my prediction that this was going to be a better event correct? It's subjective. I think it was better than Survivor Series, personally. I thought both events were super underwhelming. It didn't. Neither of them really delivered the way I thought they would. But it was because I feel both of these events were more storytelling events than, both Survivor Series and Deadline. I felt were premium live events that told and continued stories rather than just a match to end one. And so when you use these events as sort of plot points and not just a place to put matches on, you're not going to get your 10 out of 10 shows, right? Some of your shows are going to be, just storytelling events. And you can't fault them. So I don't necessarily think I was right in saying that it was going to be the best event, but I definitely don't think I was wrong. I think they're equal. I think Survivor Series and Deadline both delivered the same product to me. And so they tied. That's how we'll end it there. They tied. Let me know what y'all think about it. Join the Discord if you're not in it yet. Link in the description. Thank y'all for watching and listening. As always, leave a review, like, share, subscribe, share with your friends, family, coworkers, whoever likes wrestling. If you want to promote the show and make a sign for us, if you go to a live event, please do so. You have my blessing to say, to promote the show for me, right? Again, merchandise at slappingmeatwrestling.com. That's slappingmeatwrestling.com. Again, Junkyard Media Group Discord, link in the description. Thanks again for watching and listening, and I will see you guys on Tuesday, where we will do the end of the year awards with DJ WavyD, myself, Junkyard James, and Cody from James and Cody from the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. But until then, I will see y'all on Tuesday. Y'all have a great rest of your night, your great rest of your weekend, and I will see you on the next episode.
I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If I like get some moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. 'Cause lately I've been seeing stars, trying to kick out of this chokehold. But it's no holds